Let's be honest. Most people will never come out and say, "I don't like you." That would take courage, and let's face it, courage is rare these days. Instead, they hide behind polite smiles, hollow compliments, and just enough small talk to keep things surface level. They'll shake your hand, laugh at your jokes, maybe even tell you they support you. But deep down, they don't respect you, they don't root for you, they're just playing nice. And the scariest part? You won't even know it. You'll keep texting them, you'll keep showing up for them, you'll keep thinking, well, they've never said anything bad, right? But silence isn't innocence. Sometimes, the most dangerous people in your life aren't the ones who openly attack you. They're the ones who pretend to like you while secretly hoping you fail. I've been there, I've smiled back at people who couldn't stand me, I've trusted people who were secretly collecting my flaws like ammo. And let me tell you, it's exhausting. Because when you don't recognize the signs, you waste your most precious resource. Your energy, you pour it into people who don't pour anything back. You share your wins with people who feel threatened by them. You seek validation from those who only validate you when it's convenient. And that's not friendship, that's performance. So let me ask you, right finger, have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt drained, for no reason? Right finger, ever sensed something off, even when their words sounded nice? Right finger, ever laughed at a joke that didn't feel funny, because deep down, it felt like a jab? That's not your imagination. That's your intuition. And it's time you listen to it. This video isn't about turning paranoid. It's about waking up, because when you start to see people clearly, not for who they pretend to be, but for who they truly are, you take your power back. You stop begging for space in rooms you don't belong. You stop chasing approval from people who don't even clap when you win. You stop tolerating fake support disguised as friendliness. You become selective, you become intentional, and most importantly, you become free. So today, we're cutting through the noise. We're going to talk about the signs, the quiet red flags, that someone doesn't really like you, even if they pretend to. It might sting, but it'll save you. Let's begin. Part 1. When just joking isn't a joke. Let's talk about something subtle, but soul-crushing. We all know that one person. The one who's always cracking jokes at your expense. They smile. They laugh. They say, "Relax, I'm just joking." But you walk away feeling smaller, not entertained. Sound familiar? These aren't harmless jokes, they're precision strikes. Cleverly wrapped in sarcasm, they highlight your quirks, your flaws, your insecurities, and they do it in a way that leaves you doubting whether you're the problem for taking it personally. But here's the truth. You're not too sensitive, you're just waking up to the fact that some jokes are weapons in disguise. I've been there too. Years ago, I had a close friend who joked, constantly, about everything I did, the way I dressed, the way I spoke, the dreams I had. At first, I laughed along. I told myself, it's just their sense of humor. But over time, I noticed a pattern. The joke was never on them. It was always on me. It wasn't just funny, it was strategic. You see, there's a name for this behavior: social microaggression. It's a subtle form of control, designed to keep you in your place, without ever saying it outright. It's how someone can disrespect you with a smile, while the world claps and laughs along. Its manipulation through humor. And the scariest part, we've been conditioned to accept it, to laugh when we're uncomfortable, to stay silent so we don't ruin the vibe, to believe that if we can't take a joke, we're the weak ones. But let me flip that script for you. True friends don't build connection by tearing you down. They don't hide insults inside jokes. They don't need to put you in your place just to feel bigger. A real friend will challenge you, sure, but with respect, with love, with timing, not in front of others for a cheap laugh, not repeatedly, not in a way that chips away at your confidence over time. So let me ask you something. Right finger, has someone ever made you the butt of the joke, over and over, until you started questioning if they even liked you? Right finger, have you ever walked away from a conversation smiling, but felt bruised inside? Right finger, have you ever told yourself, they're just joking, when really, it didn't feel like a joke at all? That feeling matters. It's not weakness. It's your inner boundaries trying to speak up. And maybe no one ever told you this. So let me be the first. You're allowed to draw the line. The next time someone cracks a joke that doesn't feel right, pause. Don't just force a laugh. You can say, "Hey, I know you might not mean anything by that, but it actually doesn't sit well with me." Or even just, "What's funny about that?" 9 times out of 10, they'll get defensive, but that's okay. Because you're not doing it to please them, you're doing it to protect you. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're fragile, it means you've finally realized your self-respect isn't up for debate. And yes, some people may fall away when you stop tolerating their disguised insults, let them. Because the ones who matter, they'll never need to shrink you in order to shine. Look, life is short, you've worked too hard to build your self-worth just to let someone chip away at it through jokes. You don't have to be the cool one who takes everything on the chin. You get to be the strong one, the clear one, the one who says, "I'm done being the punchline." And when you do that, something shifts. You stop playing small, you stop seeking approval, you stop laughing at things that aren't funny just to keep the peace. And in that space, you find your power. Because sometimes, the most courageous thing you can do is stop laughing and start standing. Part 2. The compliment that cuts you down. Have you ever received a compliment that made you pause? You know, the kind that sounds nice, until it doesn't. It starts off sweet, then ends with a sting. Like, "Wow, this is actually pretty good for someone like you." Or, "You look great today. I barely recognized you." Yeah, that kind of compliment. We laugh it off, smile politely, but deep down, something feels off. That's because it is. These aren't compliments, they're sugar-coated insults, wrapped in politeness. Dipped in condescension, they're what I call velvet daggers. They look soft, but they cut deep. Let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I poured my heart into a project. It was one of those all-nighters, no weekends, eat noodles for a month kind of efforts. I finally presented it, nervous, proud, hopeful, and someone I respected said, "This is surprisingly good, especially considering where you started." Ouch. In one sentence, they managed to acknowledge the work, undermine my capability, and remind me of where they thought I belonged. That's what these backhanded compliments are designed to do. They lift you up, just enough to push you back down. They're meant to sound encouraging, but they're really about keeping you in check. And here's the kicker. They usually come from people who feel threatened by your growth. They see your potential, they sense your rising confidence, and instead of celebrating it, they try to subtly shrink you. It's a power move, a way of saying, "Don't get too confident, stay in your lane." And it's often done under the mask of kindness. So if you call it out, you risk being told you're too sensitive. But let me be clear. Noticing subtle disrespect doesn't make you sensitive. It makes you self-aware. And self-awareness is a superpower in a world full of hidden agendas. Let's dig deeper. Why do people do this? Often, it's insecurity. Someone who hasn't dealt with their own fear of inadequacy sees your progress as a threat, so instead of rising with you, they try to anchor you. But sometimes, it's subconscious. We've all said something that came out wrong, something we didn't mean to hurt, and that's where curiosity matters. So here's what I do now. When someone gives me a compliment that feels like a jab, I don't just smile and move on. I ask, "Thanks. What do you mean by that?" Simple, direct, but powerful. Because it puts the weight of their words back in their hands. It forces them to either clarify, walk it back, or admit what they were really saying. And you'd be amazed how quickly people backpedal when they realize you're not playing along. See, here's the truth. You don't have to accept every compliment, especially the ones that make you question your worth. You have the right to say, "This doesn't feel good. This isn't helpful. I won't let your words define me." You have the right to protect your peace, even if it makes the room a little uncomfortable. Because your self-worth isn't up for negotiation, not with coworkers, not with friends, not even with family. If someone consistently gives you praise that feels more like a put down, it's time to reevaluate that relationship. Ask yourself, right finger, do they lift me up, or do they keep me small? Right finger, do I feel stronger after being around them, or subtly diminished? Right finger, do I leave conversations feeling seen, or silently undermined? Your answers matter, because in the end, you deserve to be around people who can celebrate you without conditions, people who don't need to remind you of your place to feel better about theirs, people who say things like, "You did an amazing job." Period. Not, "For someone like you." Not, "Considering you're new." Just, "You did amazing." So here's your reminder. You don't have to shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. You don't have to question yourself just because someone wrapped their insecurity in a smile. Trust your gut, call it out, stand tall. Because the people who truly respect you won't need to cut you down, even when they're complimenting you. Part 3. The silent exit, when they forget to include you. Let me ask you something. Right finger, have you ever opened your phone? Seen a group photo on social media, people laughing, having fun at a dinner, a trip, an event, and suddenly realized you weren't invited? You scroll through the comments, they're tagging each other inside jokes, stories from that night, and all you can think is, why didn't anyone tell me? Then come the excuses, if you even bring it up. Oh, we thought you were busy, it was last minute, we figured it wasn't your thing. Sound familiar? Let's call this what it is. Passive exclusion. It's not dramatic, it's not explosive, but it stings, because it's quiet. It's how people say, you're not really one of us, without ever using those words. I've been there. I remember checking my phone one Saturday night. A group of friends, people I thought I was close with, had gone to an event I would have loved to join. No message. No invite. Not even a mention. When I asked about it the next day, they smiled awkwardly and said, oh, it kind of came together at the last second. We figured you had plans. But let's be honest, if they really wanted me there, they would have found a way to include me. This is where we need to get real. People don't forget the ones they truly value. That might be hard to hear, but sometimes the truth is supposed to be uncomfortable because it wakes us up. What we're talking about isn't an innocent oversight, it's a pattern, a form of quiet rejection. And the danger, if you let it go unchecked, it makes you question yourself instead of the situation. You start wondering, maybe I am too much. Maybe I don't belong. Maybe it's better to just keep my distance. That's how emotional self-doubt starts to grow, not through arguments, but through silence. But here's the thing. You don't need to accept being left out. You're not overreacting when you notice a shift. You're not too needy for wanting inclusion. You're human. So, what do? You call it out, with clarity, not anger. The next time it happens, instead of swallowing the awkwardness or pretending not to care, try saying something simple. Hey, I saw you guys went out last night. Why wasn't I invited? That one question, it disrupts the dynamic. Because now, they have to face it. They can't hide behind convenience. They can't play the oops card forever. And yes, it might get uncomfortable. Some people will get defensive, others might apologize, and a few, they'll double down and distance themselves even more. But either way, you'll get clarity. And clarity is a gift, even when it hurts. Because it allows you to stop guessing where you stand. It allows you to stop investing energy in people who only treat you as an option, and it frees you to build connections with people who make room for you, no matter how spontaneous, no matter how busy, no matter how last minute. So here's the hard truth that becomes a powerful truth. If someone wants you in their life, they'll make space for you. If they don't, they'll make excuses. You deserve better than being remembered as an afterthought. You deserve to be someone's, let's make sure they're coming, not someone they conveniently forget. And if you've been quietly excluded, I see you, I've been you, but you don't have to stay in that space. Because the people who truly care, they won't accidentally forget you. They'll text, they'll check in, they'll say, hey, we're doing this, you coming? That's what real inclusion feels like. That's what real friendship looks like. So the next time you feel that sting of being left out, don't internalize it, investigate it. Ask the question, hold the mirror up, and don't be afraid of the answer. Because even if it's not what you wanted to hear, it's probably what you needed to know. Part 4. I'm just so busy, when you're not really a priority. Let's talk about one of the most polite forms of rejection. I'm just really busy right now. We've all heard it, and let's be honest, we've probably used it too. But here's the thing. Being busy isn't the issue. Everyone's busy. Jobs, families, life, that's normal. But what's not normal is when someone is magically available for everyone else, but never for you. They're out grabbing coffee with coworkers, they're attending birthday dinners, they're posting selfies from spontaneous road trips, and yet, when you ask to hang out, oh sorry, work is crazy. Let's touch base next week. I just have a lot going on. Week after week, month after month, and you start to wonder, is it really their schedule or is it just me? Let me say something that might sting, but might also set you free. Right finger, people make time for what they care about. Right finger, and more importantly, people make time for who they care about. When someone says they're too busy, but they're consistently showing up for others, What they're really saying is, you're not a priority right now. That's not drama, that's not bitterness, that's reality. And I get it. This is hard to accept. Because deep down, we don't want to believe we matter less to someone than they do to us. We'd rather buy into the idea that they're just temporarily overwhelmed, that someday, somehow, they'll come around. But let me ask you. Right finger, how long have you been waiting for them to make time for you? Right finger, how many text threads have you started that never turned into plans? Right finger, how many times have you told yourself, maybe next week, just to be disappointed again? Here's the truth. If someone can't give you their time, it's not about their calendar, it's about their intentions. We often excuse this kind of behavior because we don't want to seem needy. We tell ourselves, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I know they're just busy. But deep down, it still hurts. Because we feel the difference between genuine unavailability and selective effort. We can sense when someone is making excuses rather than making time. And the longer you tolerate it, the more you start to shrink yourself. You stop reaching out, you stop asking, you tell yourself, maybe I am asking for too much. But you're not. You're asking for reciprocity, you're asking to be seen, you're asking to be treated with the same value you offer. And that's not too much, that's bare minimum in any healthy relationship. Let me be clear. You deserve to be someone's, I'll make it work. Not their, maybe later. Not their backup plan, not their 11th hour cancellation. You deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. And if you find yourself in this pattern, always reaching, always hoping, always left hanging, then maybe it's time to step back and reassess. Because love, friendship, and connection, they don't thrive in one-sided effort, they grow in shared presence. So what can you do? First, stop over-explaining. You don't have to justify your feelings. You don't need a PowerPoint presentation to explain why consistency matters. If you feel neglected, name it. Say something like, hey, I've noticed that we haven't spent time together in a while, and I'd love to reconnect. But I also feel like I'm the only one reaching out. That's not confrontation, that's clarity. And clarity is what sets us free. Because here's the thing. If they care, they'll respond with action. Not just words. They'll make time, they'll adjust, they'll meet you halfway. But if they don't, then your absence will teach them what your presence never could. Let that be the moment you stop begging to be seen. Let that be the moment you choose yourself. Because at the end of the day, your time and your heart are valuable. Don't keep offering them to people who only show up when it's convenient. Your life is too short to chase after half-hearted connections. Let go of the people who are too busy for you, so you can make room for those who are excited to have you in their life. Part 5. When touch is avoided, and so are you. Let's talk about something most people don't want to admit, because it's awkward, because it's subtle, but also because it's real. Right finger, what does it mean when someone avoids touching you? I'm not talking about anything romantic here, I mean the everyday, human moments of connection. A high five, a pat on the back, a handshake, a hug after a tough day. Physical touch is one of the most primal forms of communication. It says, I see you. I trust you. I'm here with you. But what if someone never reaches out? Worse. What if they're perfectly warm and physical with everyone else, but stiff and distant with you? What if you go in for a handshake and they awkwardly pull back? Or you try to hug them and it feels like you're hugging a mannequin? Let's get honest. That's not just a personality quirk. That's a signal. Now look, I get it, some people aren't naturally touchy, some cultures, some upbringings, some traumas make physical connection difficult, that's valid. But here's the nuance. If someone is open and comfortable with other people, but pulls away from you, that's not about their nature, that's about your relationship. It's a subtle way of saying, I'm not comfortable around you. Or even, I don't trust you. Or sometimes, I don't like you. But I don't want to say it out loud. Ouch, right? I remember working with a colleague who was warm and engaging with everyone on the team, hugs at celebrations, shoulder taps in the hallway, leaning in during conversations. But with me, nothing. No eye contact, no closeness. Every time I entered the room, it was like an invisible wall went up. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself I was overthinking it. But week after week, I couldn't deny the pattern. They weren't just avoiding touch, they were avoiding connection. And that's the deeper truth here. Physical avoidance isn't always about the body. Sometimes, it's about emotional distance. When someone avoids even casual contact with you, but is physically present with others, it's often a sign they're keeping you at arm's length. Both literally and figuratively. Now, does that mean they hate you? Not necessarily, but it does mean the relationship isn't as close as you might have thought. And here's where your power comes in. You don't have to ignore it. You don't have to pretend it doesn't sting. You don't have to keep chasing warmth from someone who's signaling distance. Instead, you can ask, gently but clearly, "Hey, I've noticed there's some distance between us. Is everything okay?" That question? It's courageous, it's uncomfortable, but it's real. And it gives them a chance to either step up or step out. Now, I'm not saying every lack of touch is a red flag. Some people simply need more space, and that's fine, but patterns matter, context matters, and your feelings matter. If you constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells, like you're being held at a distance, like you're not fully welcome, then maybe it's time to stop blaming yourself and start observing the truth of what's happening. Because connection isn't just about what people say, it's about how they show up, and sometimes the way they pull away says everything. So what do? You acknowledge it, you speak up if the relationship matters, and if they still can't meet you halfway, you give yourself permission to stop pouring energy into one-sided closeness. You deserve relationships where touch isn't awkward, forced, or missing altogether, where presence feels safe, where a simple handshake, a pat on the back, or a shared space feels natural, not strained. Let me leave you with this. We're wired for connection, not just emotionally, physically, too. And when someone consistently denies that, it's not just a habit, it's a message. Listen to that message and don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. Because distance without dialogue isn't peace, it's silent rejection. And you deserve better than being held at arm's length. You deserve to be met, fully, openly, and without hesitation. Part 6. When they disappear the moment you need them. Let's talk about what really reveals someone's character. It's not how they treat you when life is good, it's not the laughs, the dinners, or the Instagram-worthy memories. The real test is how they show up when everything falls apart. When your life starts unraveling, when the mask slips, when you're not smiling, performing, or pretending to be okay. That's when you find out who's truly in your corner, and who was just there for the good times. Maybe you've been there. You're going through something real, a breakup, a loss, a crisis. You send a message. You reach out, and then, nothing. No reply, no call, no, "How are you holding up?" Just silence. And it hurts, not just because of what you're going through, but because the people you thought would be there disappeared. Let's call it what it is: emotional abandonment. And it stings more than almost anything else. Because these were the same people you stayed up with when they were hurting, the same people you've comforted, supported, showed up for. But now, when the roles are reversed, suddenly, they're busy, suddenly, they go quiet, suddenly, it's inconvenient to care. That's when you realize, some people are only around for your sunshine, not your storm. And here's the brutal truth. If someone disappears when you're in pain, they were never really there to begin with. I learned this the hard way. I was going through one of the darkest seasons of my life, and I thought, naively, that certain people would have my back. But instead, I got generic responses, delayed replies, excuses dressed up as empathy, and worst of all, radio silence. It wrecked me, but it also revealed something powerful. Crisis doesn't just shake your life, it filters your circle. It shows you, without question, who's real, and who's just been riding the wave of convenience. But here's what I want you to know. Their absence is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their depth. Some people simply don't have the emotional capacity, or courage, to sit with someone else's pain. And that's okay. Because once you know where people stand, you stop overextending yourself for those who wouldn't lift a finger for you. You stop calling people friends who only know how to celebrate, not support. And most importantly, you stop blaming yourself for feeling abandoned. Because the truth is, your hard times aren't a burden, they're a test. A test that reveals who's meant to stay in your story, and who is just passing through. So what do? You take the lesson, you adjust your expectations, and you use their silence as clarity. You realize, if someone can't be there when it matters, they don't deserve front row access to your life. Let their absence be the closure, let it free you from chasing loyalty in the wrong places. Because here's the thing. You deserve people who text first, who ask how you're doing without being asked, who show up, even if they don't have all the answers, people who say, I may not know what to say. But I'm here. Those are the relationships worth keeping. The rest? Let them go. Not with bitterness, but with wisdom. Because life is too short to waste energy on people who only love the version of you that's smiling, performing, and problem-free. You are not too much, you are not a burden, you are not hard to love. You were just trying to hand your heart to people who didn't have hands big enough to hold it. So from now on, surround yourself with the ones who don't flinch at your vulnerability, who see your mess, and sit beside you anyway, who walk with you through the shadows. Not just the spotlight. Because real connection shows up when it's inconvenient. And the people who stay when things get hard, those are your people. Everyone else? Let their absence speak volumes. Part 7. When the people you trust talk behind your back. Let's talk about one of the most painful forms of betrayal, and it usually comes when you least expect it. Not from strangers, not from enemies, but from the people you once trusted, the ones who smiled in your face and gossiped about you behind your back. Have you ever had that moment? You confide in someone, maybe about your fears, your failures, something deeply personal, and days later, pieces of that conversation start showing up in places they shouldn't. People repeat your words, twisted your vulnerability, passed around like entertainment. It's gut-wrenching, because gossip isn't just talk. It's a quiet form of sabotage, and when it comes from someone close to you, it doesn't just hurt, it scars. Let's call gossip what it really is. Right finger social poison. Right finger cowardice in disguise. Right finger a power play to elevate one person by reducing another. And here's something nobody wants to say out loud. If they gossip to you, they'll gossip about you. You are not the exception, you are just the current audience. And one day, you'll become the next topic. I learned this the hard way. There was someone in my life who always had the tea, always knew what was going on in everyone's world. They would sit with me, lean in, and say, "Don't tell anyone I told you this." And I'll admit, at first, it felt like a bond, like I was being trusted, included. But then it hit me. If they were willing to betray someone else's trust so casually, why would I ever think they wouldn't do the same to me? Sure enough, they did. A private conversation we had, something I never meant for anyone else, somehow ended up in the hands of people who were never meant to hear it. And that's when I realized, gossip isn't harmless, it's a pattern of betrayal in slow motion. And it says way more about the person spreading it than the person it's about. Because let's be honest, right finger people who are secure in themselves don't need to tear others down. Right finger people with real confidence don't feed off drama. Right finger and people who are truly loyal don't use your pain as punchlines. So what can you do? First, pay attention to patterns, not just the words, but the energy behind them. If someone always brings negativity, always centers conversations around what's wrong with others, always whispers but never supports, that's not connection, that's corrosion. Second, don't try to change them. You're not here to rehabilitate gossipers, you're here to protect your peace. That might mean distancing yourself, it might mean cutting ties, it might mean having the hard conversation. Hey, I shared that with you in confidence. I'm hurt that it got out, and I need you to know that's not okay with me. Will it be uncomfortable? Absolutely. But your self-respect is worth the discomfort. Because here's the truth. You don't owe anyone your silence when they've disrespected your trust. And lastly, don't become like them. It's easy to fight gossip with gossip, to clap back, to expose them in return. But that's not strength, that's just more noise. Instead, let your clarity do the talking, let your boundaries speak louder than revenge, and surround yourself with people who value trust as much as you do. People who don't need the latest drama to feel important, people who protect your name when you're not in the room, people who understand. Loyalty isn't proven when you're watching, it's proven when you're not. So if you've ever been talked about, betrayed, exposed, know this: you didn't lose a friend, you just uncovered the truth. Let it teach you, let it strengthen you, let it refine your circle. And next time someone leans in to whisper, "Don't tell anyone I said this," you'll smile, stand tall, and walk away. Because you've learned, if someone can't protect your name when you're not there, they don't deserve your presence when you are. Conclusion. Your worth isn't measured by someone else's eyes. Let me leave you with this. In a world where we're constantly told to fit in, to be agreeable, likable, non-confrontational, where being too sensitive is framed as weakness and calling out mistreatment is labeled as overreacting, it's easy to start questioning yourself. But I want you to remember something. You were never meant to twist yourself to be more palatable, you were never meant to shrink to make others comfortable, and you were never meant to beg for respect that should have been given freely. Learning to recognize the subtle signs, the jokes that cut too deep, the compliments that belittle, the silence in your darkest moments, the exclusion masked as oversight. That's not being paranoid, that's being self-aware. And self-awareness is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Because here's the truth. Right finger, you don't need to be liked by everyone. Right finger, you don't need to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Right finger, and you absolutely don't need to stay where you're only tolerated, not celebrated. Read that again. You deserve more than tolerance, you deserve real friendship, real respect, real love, without conditions, without strings, and without performance. And yes, it takes courage to walk away from the people who once felt familiar even when they no longer feel safe. It takes courage to stop hoping they'll change, to stop shrinking for acceptance, to stop blaming yourself for their behavior. But it's worth it, because on the other side of that courage are the people who truly see you, the ones who don't flinch at your truth, the ones who hold space for you. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. And more importantly, on the other side of that courage is you. The real you, the unfiltered, unedited, unafraid version of you, the one who knows their worth doesn't come from external validation, but from deep, internal truth. So if you've been questioning where you stand, if you've felt that sting of quiet disrespect, if you've been walking on eggshells in friendships that drain you, let this be your reminder. You don't need permission to protect your peace, you don't need anyone's approval to walk away from what's harming your spirit. Let their absence make room for presence, let their silence teach you how to listen to your own voice, let their betrayal be the very thing that leads you back to yourself. You are not too much. You're not dramatic, you're not imagining it. You're just done settling for less than what you deserve. So choose differently now. Choose people who speak to you. Not about you. Choose relationships where respect isn't a reward you have to earn. It's the foundation. Choose the version of yourself that's no longer afraid to stand alone, if it means standing strong. And when you do, you won't just lose the wrong people, you'll attract the right ones. Because there's something magnetic about a person who knows who they are, what they deserve, and is no longer afraid to walk away from anything that asks them to forget it. So here's your final reminder. You are worthy. You are enough. You are not defined by who likes you. You are defined by how you treat yourself. Start there and the rest will follow.